All right. Well, we have Cameron Brand, who is Director of Research at EPFR Global, who is joining in. Cameron, great to have you with us here on the program. Thanks very much. We're not too concerned about global markets because, I mean, what we're seeing, what we have here in India is a bit local. The Indian small cap product, if I can call it a product, was by far the best performing asset class in the world for the last year and a half or so. Some were joking and saying it's like a 0.5% daily compounding product. Maybe more. But that's kind of come to a halt, maybe a pause. We're about 13-14% off the highs. But give us some perspective in terms of what flows into India dedicated funds, etc. look like. What's the perception like? Because there is also the big event, which is the general elections in front of us here. Go on.
The 30,000-foot view, I think, is pause. That's certainly what we're seeing here. But India remains slightly exempt from a fund flow perspective from that. Dedicated India equity funds are on track for another very solid week with a day to go. They're moving in on a $600 million inflow, which is by far and away the biggest inflow for a dedicated country group. So, the broad background certainly suggests pause, and I'm not at all surprised that you're seeing some form of correction. But the narrative around India remains extremely positive. We're closing in on a year of continuous above average weekly inflows to dedicated India funds. The average allocation among the GEM funds we track, though unfortunately they aren't getting very much money, is at a record high for India. So certainly from a fund flow perspective, though, the overall tone is definitely a little more cautious than it was coming into this year. India remains in a very good place.
Okay, India remains in a very good place. I think that was the calming words that our market needed at this point in time, given the kind of sell-off we had yesterday. Yesterday was truly a day when people were sort of rethinking, their investments in the market. But, I mean, it was just one day. So what do you do at a time like this? Do you continue to stay focused on investing your money in India? And where are you seeing the money go in? Because yesterday we did see large FII outflows from the Indian markets.
Right. I mean, when there is some volatility, some uncertainty, there's an obvious tendency to head towards the big liquid names. So, I would expect when I start to drill deeper into the numbers that I'll see something of a rotation to large cap funds over this period. But certainly the narrative you mentioned, India's election, there's very little uncertainty, perhaps too little uncertainty about how that'll play out and the fairly benign effect it'll have on the current policy landscape for India.
All right. Hi, Cameron. Good morning. Good to see you, Ben. Cameron, I wanted to ask you about flows to China. In the last 1 month or so, that market has been outperforming. It's a bombed out market, mind you. In the last 1 year or so, we are thumping the table that India is doing much better. But in the last 1 month, they seem to be getting some part of their game back, so to call it. Are they getting flows?
Yes, they've been getting certainly dedicated China funds, getting very strong domestic support for some time. We are seeing a little bit more interest externally, but that is somewhat offset by investors taking the chance to exit at a slightly higher price point. So we are seeing a modest uptick in flows, but it's pretty weak, and enthusiasm for perhaps a revival in China's economic picture is being offset by people using that to cut their exposure.
All right. Okay, Cameron, thanks a lot. We have on a bit of a scratchy line, so we'll try and touch base with you again later. But thank you for your time here on CNBC TV 18. Let's